If you want to learn to tie the least amount of knots for the most amount of function, I don't think you can get better than these 4 knots. The Bowline, the Alpine Butterfly, the Zepplin Bend. I'm going to show you how to tie these 3 knots, and then we're going to use them to tie our 4th knot, the trucker's hitch. Now, before we get started, I just want to preface this by saying these are only 4 knots. There are certain knots that are better for certain situations, and there are better methods for tying these knots in certain situations. But the knots I'm going to show you and the methods for tying that I'm going to show you, I believe, are versatile enough and simple enough that you'll find a range of uses for them, and most importantly that you'll remember how to actually tie them when you do find those uses. Alright, with that said, we're going to start with the bowline. We're going to take about a foot of cord, about 30 centimeters. We're going to take the tail end in our right hand here, we're going to twist until we form an overhand loop, and we're going to keep twisting until that loop falls on itself and we get this soft pretzel shape. We're going to pull through a little bit here on the standing end, and then with our working end here we're going to come through and fold back. We're just going to pinch there and then just pull the standing end. Alright, and there we have our bowline. So this method is the snap bowline. That's the method of tying that it's called. You can also tie this round an object by wrapping the working end round what you're looking to tie before you put it through the window and fold it back in itself. But it's a great fixed loop. You'll find a bunch of uses for this. So the next knot we're going to tie is going to be the Alpine Butterfly loop. This is a midline loop, so you can tie it just anywhere in the middle of the rope. Okay, what you're going to do is wrap around your hand 3 times. Except with this 3rd wrap, you're going to bring it up in between the first 2 wraps. Then you're going to take your top wrap here, pull in a little bit of slack, fold it over the first 2, and tuck it underneath. And then you're just going to pull everything and tighten it all up. Dress the knot, and there you have your Alpine Butterfly loop. Okay, much like the bowline, this is a fixed loop, multiple amount of uses. The 3rd knot we're going to tie is a Zepplin Bend. Now, bend is tying 2 ropes together, so I'm going to bring in a 2nd rope here, and what you're going to do is with any of the ropes you're going to create either an underhand or an overhand loop. So I'm going to take this rope here, and you see I've created an overhand loop with the tail pointing down. Now what you're going to do is with your 2nd rope you're going to create the exact opposite of this. So we have an overhand with the tail pointing down, we're going to create an underhand with the tail pointing up. Alright, the overhand goes on top of the underhand loop, and then you're just going to take the top rope, wrap it down the bottom and up through, and the bottom rope and wrap it around the top and down through, and then we're just going to pull everything tight. And there we have the Zepplin Bend. Now with this it doesn't matter if it's the same rope type or the same rope size. If one's bigger than the other, they'll tie together fine. They'll tie together just the same way. So one of the many great things about these 3 knots is they all have what are called breakpoints, which makes them very easy to untie even after they've been put under a lot of load. So with the Zepplin Bend there are 2 breakpoints, 1 on each side, and you basically just bend these little sort of collars down the rope and you can just pull it apart. Alright, you just pull the whole thing apart. Alpine Butterfly, it's these 2 here, you just pry them back, you pull the whole thing apart. And with the bowline, again you have a collar here, you can just push back and the whole thing just falls apart. So we're going to take these 3 knots, and we're going to go downstairs and go outside, and I'm going to show you there's a couple of small trees. I'm going to show you how to tie a trucker's hitch using these 3. Okay, so we're going to tie our trucker's hitch between these 2 trees. This is just an example. This obviously setup could be used for like a ridgeline for a tarp, but you could also use the same system for tying something down in the back of a trailer. I'm going to try and do this in one take so as authentic as possible. So here we go. So we're going to start with our bowline round here. Alright, go back itself, snap. So there's our bowline. Now we don't have enough rope here, so thankfully we have a 2nd rope. Attach those, we're going to use our Zepplin Bend. Apologies about the wind. So I've got my underhand loop pointing down, so I'm going to take an overhand loop pointing up. Overhand goes on top. I'm going to twist this round and through, twist round and through, and we're just going to tighten everything up. Alright, very good. And then for our trucker's hitch we need a loop for our mechanical advantage, so we're going to use the Alpine Butterfly loop. 1, 2, 3rd in the middle, fold over. Alright, dress our loop a bit better than that. That actually looks horrendous, so we're going to retie that. I did say I was going to try and do it in one take. But we might edit that out. There's a 1, 2, 3. Third loop over. I'm just going to pull this all tight. There we go, Alpine Butterfly loop. Okay, we're going to go round here to our trucker's hitch. We then go through. This creates a pulley system that gives us a 2-to-1 advantage. We're going to pull tight on this, very tight. Okay. And we're just going to pinch here. And all you're going to do is just create a little half hitch. So just bring the rope round so it bites in itself. Alright. Again, we could do the same, that just locks it off. Alright. And that, let's just make sure we're in frame here. That is our trucker's hitch, okay? Okay, so those are the 4 knots that I think are the only ones you need to accomplish the majority of tasks that can be accomplished with a bit of rope anyway. As I say, I understand there are better knots for certain tasks, but with these 4 and a bit of ingenuity, you can accomplish pretty much anything. Alright, thanks guys.